Kyle, how often did you miss school as a kid?
Oh, Emily.
And was it for a good reason?
Never. So I think after 9th grade, I never went to first period.
Just from sleeping in?
I could not, for the life of me, wake up in the morning. Just could not do it. I mean, it haunted me throughout college, too. And part of it was, like, guilt that, like, I slept in so much that I felt guilty about sleeping in, so I just gave up, you know? And some days I just wouldn't go to school.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kyle.
Hey, listen, it's your fault. I know you're Rip Van Winkle secretly.
Yes,
sprinkling dust on me.
This is very true.
Yeah, what about you? Did you ever miss school?
I mean, I'm sure I did, but not very often, because I was very, like, panickedly obedient to rules.
Yeah,
so
yeah, punctilious to the T.
Punctilious to a fault, yeah.
I could see that. But I can also see that leading you to missing school, you know?
Yeah, probably a couple times. I don't remember, you know, high school was so long ago.
It was like 2-3 years ago for us.
That's
right, Emily?
That's
it was
right.
2-3 years
Kyle
ago.
and I are young and spry.
Young and spry.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Emily Moyers and Kyle Imperator take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Kyle Imperator.
And I'm Emily Moyers. And we're here watching each other.
We're watching each other in silence. But also, we're going to be talking about a word today. I have it on good authority.
Kyle, the word I have for you, you might know it. I don't know. The word is Malinger. Malinger.
Oh, I've definitely heard it before, and I feel like for some reason in my head I have a visceral attachment to it being misspelled as maligner.
I mean, certainly looks that way. It's very close.
Malinger sounds like a folksy way of complaining about loitering. They're out there malingering on my front lawn.
Yeah, like a lingering.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
No. Oh, malinger. Malinger.
Oh, malinger.
Is it a verb?
It is a verb. You got it.
Does it have Latin roots?
Further back, yes.
Okay, ancient Greece.
We got it from French.
Oh, from French? So I'm thinking bad. Inger. That's going to be a harder one, though. You know?
Yeah. Why don't you take one good guess and then I'll give you a clue. Okay.
Malinger, I think, is to, avoid something.
Kyle, you've guessed half of it. There's one little bit.
Okay. Can I get a hint?
You can. The hint, it's a cheeky hint. The hint is bone spurs.
Bone spurs? Does malinger mean to avoid the draft? To avoid going to war?
To avoid by doing what?
Claiming a medical problem.
You got it, Kyle. You got it perfectly.
Crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. Insane.
So to malinger is to feign or exaggerate some illness or injury in order to avoid work or other obligations.
So funny. No, my brother, who I know isn't listening to this podcast, malingered all the time. He would do it in such a dramatic way. It's hilarious that he didn't become the actor. But the night before he didn't want to go to school, he would walk out of his room like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Like all of a sudden. And we'd be like, all right, dude. Sure.
An Oscar-winning malingerer.
Tell me more about malingering.
So, Kyle, malinger as a verb has been used in English since around the early 1800s. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, it was backformed from the noun malingerer. that is a person who malingers. And that is derived from French, as I said. The history is a little fuzzy, as is often the case. Etymology is a sketch. There is a French adjective, malingre, it's malinger with the R and the E switched, which, according to the digitized treasury of the French language, could mean in poor health or not well, or could also mean of a person puny or of delicate constitution.
Like a shrinking violet. Is that what?
or like weak or sickly.
Sure.
You know, there are citations of the word malingre as early as the 1500s, and citations of the surname Malingre, capital M, as early as the 1200s.
I mean, that wasn't a choice, right? Someone named that person that.
Truly, Kyle, I would love for you to describe the man who is so sick that his last name means sickly, but in the 1200s, when the bar for healthy is already so low, everyone is dying of tuberculosis every day.
I mean, it's gotta be somebody who just has a hole, like a cannonball hole through their body, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, I'm not feeling well today. And they're like,
walking around like your brother.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I can go to school tomorrow. John, I don't think you can do anything tomorrow.
The hole is oozing green goo.
You don't have any organs anymore.
I don't think you have any blood in your veins. You are paper white.
I know, it's getting bad.
Getting? How much worse can it get, my man? I don't know, but I keep on living somehow.
The doctor says I have 4 more years. I hate it.
I was born this way. I'm the 4th sickly of my name.
The 4th sickly.
So, a lot of different theories on the etymology of malingre. It might be a blend of the prefix mal, you mentioned, the Latin prefix meaning badly, and an old French word, hangre, Hangre or Hengre, which also meant sick, weak, thin, or emaciated. So it could just be like badly sick.
Is that also where we get hangry from?
I assume so. Yeah.
Badly sick and emaciated.
Yeah. So different sites have also suggested it could be related to a French word mingre, Mingre, which also meant sick or thin or miserable. Could also be related to malade, like malad, like malady, which was an adjective that could mean sick, or a noun, which could mean a sick person. So all sort of hovering around the same thing. Yeah. We got our word one way or another.
It is a sketch, clearly, but it's a pretty condensed area where we're getting our sketch from.
Yeah.
It's one sketchbook page.
Yes. Yeah, all the words are pretty similar and all hover around this same concept. Yeah. The Oxford English Dictionary quotes a definition of malingre from the early 1600s as a noun meaning a beggar who by false wounds, etc., attempts to arouse compassion, which is
a malingre.
Yes. Which is a malingerer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the OED doesn't cite that quote, and I couldn't find where it comes from.
They have it on good authority.
Yes. But the online etymology dictionary discusses a similar shifting of meaning. They talk about a French verb, malingrer, which could mean to suffer, but, quote, probably also at one time meant pretend to be ill.
Without a doubt, probably.
Again, no source, just like, we feel like that fits. So it's probable, it seems, that the meaning was already shifting in French as early as the 1600s. But then by the mid-1700s, malingerer started to appear in English, originally in a military context, like you suggested, meaning a soldier who shirks their duty by feigning illness. And then by the early 1800s, we backformed the verb to malinger, still with the context of to shirk one's duties as a soldier by feigning illness. And then over time, it widened out to the more general usage that it has today.
How often do we think malingering happened in medieval armies?
It's like probably all the time, because how could they tell you were lying? Everyone was ill. I guess maybe it didn't work because they were like, I don't care if you're sick.
Yeah.
Bartholomew's arm is off and he's still fighting.
He's using his arm as a weapon. That's what I call ingenuity. Get with it, John.
I don't care if you have dysentery. Speaking of the usage, malingering is like a recognized thing in the psychiatric world.
Interesting.
Yes, because it's not always just calling out sick from work. You know, there's the context that we just talked about, dodging military service. It's considered a court-martial offense, apparently.
Oh, wow. In the United States?
In the United States military, yes.
Wow.
There have been allegations of veterans feigning PTSD for disability benefits, college students feigning ADHD for academic benefits, addicts seeking prescription drugs, insurance companies losing billions on feigned medical conditions. And if you're thinking to yourself, Emily, what if those people aren't lying? I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. How do you prove it?
Because truly, all it takes is one faker, and then the man comes out and says, we've decided everyone's faking it and no one gets anything.
It's like a elementary school class. You know what? No recess.
No recess for anybody because Johnny pooped in his seat.
And he's faking it. All right. He didn't need to poop. He forced to poop.
That's right.
Now we got to sit in here and smell his poop. All right. Thanks, Johnny. I still have a cannonball wound.
Yeah. So point is, identifying malingerers becomes a very important science, on the one hand, to sort out the people who might be taking advantage of things, but I think more importantly, to protect the people who actually need those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are loads of tests for verifying symptoms and conditions of various kinds. It's tricky because the validity of these tests varies, like the likelihood of identifying true positives versus the risk of misidentifying false positives. It like kind of varies from test to test.
I'm struggling to see how you kind of come up with tests for these things.
Yeah, it seems like most of them are like interview based or like, I don't know. The other thing is these tests cost money to like just know what the test is. So yeah. I guess like normal people can't really access them.
Government and insurance companies. Yeah.
Probably, yes.
The two biggest grifters in the world.
Wow. Kyle, glad you said it, not me, but amen. Looking across a few different sites, it seems like some of the more well-trusted ones are the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, or the MMPI, as well as the Structured Interview of Reported Symptoms, or SIRS. But there are lots of others that get used, and also, I'm not a doctor. I'm a buffoon.
It sounds like these things aren't administered by doctors, is what I'm concerned about.
Well, I think they are. I think they're for medical professionals to sort out fact from fiction. And I guess maybe to help with diagnostics as well. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
You think they just walk in a room and they're like, intentional malingerer says what? What? Aha!
Well, you wouldn't have to specify intentional malingerer. That is malingering.
Well, couldn't you malinger if you're like a hypochondriac? Wouldn't that be malingering?
So, no. Malingering is a deliberate effort. Something like that might be considered somatic symptom disorder. If you are experiencing something that is real to you, but does not appear to have a medical cause, a clear medical cause. And then there's also factitious disorder, previously known as Munchausen's, which is also deliberately lying, but out of a psychological desire to be in the role of patient.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that's what that was.
Yeah, it's generally, I think, people who sort of crave the attention of like doctors and caregivers. But both of those, factitious disorder and somatic symptom disorder, are different than malingering. Malingering is like you want to get something or you want to avoid something, so you're going to lie.
Are you going to teach us how to do this in this episode?
I am, Kyle, going to talk to you about some famous malingerers.
Oh, I love it. Love it. All right.
Some people who bent the truth about their health for good or for ill. And we're going to start with for ill. Kyle, what do the serial killers David Berkowitz, Kenneth Bianchi, and John Wayne Gacy all have in common?
They were all clowns.
No, only one of them was a clown.
Oh, thank God. That would have been really scary. Oh, God. I don't know. They all went to children's parties?
But you only know about John Wayne Gacy, huh?
I've never heard of the other two.
David Berkowitz, famous for the Son of Sam murders in the late 1970s.
Oh, yeah, I do know him.
And
okay.
Kenneth Bianchi of the Hillside Strangler murders, also in the late 70s. But this is something they all have in common from their trials and defenses.
Oh, did they all claim insanity?
Yes, they did. They all claimed psychological conditions as a defense. Yes, so David Berkowitz of the Son of Sam murders claimed he was doing the bidding of a demon who was manifesting in the form of his neighbor Sam's dog.
Right. I mean, that's not really insanity. That could be true for all we know.
Yes, it's true. Except that Berkowitz later fully admitted that was a hoax. That was a lie.
Could have kept it up, dude.
Kenneth Bianchi, Hillside Strangler, claimed his crimes were the result of dissociative identity disorder, DID, previously known as multiple personality disorder. This did not stand up to psychiatric evaluation, and Bianchi also later admitted that he was faking it.
Under what pretenses did they admit that they were faking it? Was it just they were in prison already and they're like, yeah, it was all a lie?
No, I don't know if this is the case with both of them, but with one of them, it was like they would have been facing the death penalty if they had continued to deny. So once they confessed to the crimes and confessed to lying, they got an easier sentence. A life sentence, but not a death sentence.
It's crazy how life is easier than death sometimes.
Sometimes, But speaking of the death sentence, John Wayne Gacy, who is dead, aka the killer clown, as you intimated, his crimes were also allegedly attributed to dissociative identity disorder, while Gacy himself insisted that he, quote, did not commit the crimes, and there was, quote, no evidence. His lawyers pled insanity, and I think the trial largely focused on determining how accountable he was for his crimes. And both the defense and the prosecution brought in experts. Some argued that he did have DID, others that his behavior was not consistent with the actual disorder. I think the prevailing psychiatric opinion is that Gacy was in full control of his actions and was a bad man.
You said that he said that there wasn't evidence? Wasn't there body parts buried under his floorboards?
Truly, he wrote in a letter to the judge. He said, there is no evidence except for the bodies found under my house.
I mean, yeah, except for those things, there's no evidence.
Aside from those 26 corpses, how do you know it was me?
Anybody could have put those there.
Kyle, I have another question for you, unrelated.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what Syndrome K is?
My villain alter ego.
I didn't even think about that.
I'm Syndrome K, and I'm coming for your ice creams.
Is that a no?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
Kyle, Syndrome K was a contagious and fatal disease that was made up by the doctors of the Roman Catholic Fate Bene Fratelli Hospital during the Nazi occupation of Italy.
I'm stunned. I'm gobsmacked. Is this for good?
It is.
I love this.
The hospital was very near the Jewish ghetto in Rome. When the ghetto was raided by the Nazis in October of 1943, any Jewish people who were able to escape and make it to the hospital were admitted and diagnosed with Il Morbo di K, or Syndrome K, which was named after Albert Kesserling and Herbert Kappler, who were two high-ranking Nazis in Rome at the time. And Syndrome K was essentially a notation for doctors to differentiate this person isn't sick, they are hiding. We are secreting them in the hospital. And publicly, they would describe the symptoms as sort of vaguely similar to tuberculosis. And when the Nazis came to investigate the hospital, the patients were told to put on a horrible hacking cough. Yeah. And the Germans heard it and said, we want nothing to do with that. Absolutely. You're good. Bye.
That's so genius.
Isn't that cool?
That's so great.
Yeah, I think accounts of how many people they saved that way vary. It seems like anywhere from 40 to 100, which is a lot
of people.
Yeah, not insignificant.
How is there not a Syndrome K biopic?
I think there's a documentary about it somewhere.
I want to see Tom Hanks doing his best Italian accent,
I think
which
the
is probably
documentary.
not great.
I think the documentary is narrated by Ray Liotta, if that helps.
Interesting.
I mean, he's Italian.
Italian, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
I love it. That's a great story, Emily.
I have one more good story, a case of a malingerer trying to gain something rather than avoid it. There is a case study from the 1960s about a transgender woman who was given the pseudonym Agnes. The case study is significant because it is possibly the first American case study of a transitioning transgender person. But the psychologists that wrote it don't deserve any credit because they did not know that they were writing the first case study of a transitioning transgender person. Agnes was assigned male at birth, but started taking her mother's estrogen pills when she was 12. So by the time she got to the other side of puberty, her primary sex organs were still male, but she otherwise presented as very female. Agnes went to a doctor and said, "Hey, I was born a boy, but started developing female characteristics during puberty. I'd like to get genital surgery." She didn't tell the doctors that she was taking estrogen.
Yeah.
So they thought her body just wasn't responding to male sex hormones, so they approved her for surgery. And she got it.
Incredible. Wait, what year was this?
It's in the 60s. They didn't say exactly what year the surgery was, but in the mid to late 60s, I think.
Wow. That is stunning.
Just a quick aside. I'm not a doctor, but I imagine Agnes would have a harder time selling this lie today than in the 60s. And I also imagine that if she got caught, it would drastically hurt her chances of getting the surgery she needs. So nobody lie to your doctor, please.
Yeah, don't. Lying is bad on all fronts. Malingering, bad unless you're saving the Jews in the Holocaust.
Yes. If anyone finds themselves
It's a good
in
exception.
Nazi-occupied Italy, they can malinger. You have
You're
my
allowed
permission.
to malinger.
Yeah.
Yes. The B&P, a seal of approval for malingering.
Yeah, but you have to call it Syndrome BNP.
Oh, I don't know if we want to have our name associated with this.
A syndrome. All right, Kyle, it's that point in the episode where I'm going to ask you to use malinger in a sentence, and don't try to cough your way out of this because I know you can do it.
I don't know if I can do a word in a sentence today, Emily. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Are you not feeling well?
I'm not feeling well, honestly. Emily, I know you were going to give me the death sentence, so in order to avoid that, I'm going to admit to you that I have been malingering in order to avoid having to give you a sentence using the word malinger.
There we go. You did it, buddy. That was correct.
Great word, Emily. It's so useful, and I mean, some really horrifying stories, but some also a few uplifting ones, you know?
I like when we get some, real world fun stuff in here.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And some real world unfun stuff. It's good to have a good mix.
Yeah, good mix. Yeah. And now, Kyle, you want to mix in a mini game?
Let's mix it up. Absolutely.
So the game I have is called Fictitious Disorder. A malingerer might make up a disease for personal gain, but a writer might make up a disease for a good story. How's that for a segue?
Sure. That's good. I love it. Yeah.
Kyle's
Are you a writer? Wow, it worked out so well.
I'm pretty good.
I dabble.
Kyle, this game is very simple. I've got a handful of made-up maladies, and I promise only 2 of them are zombie-related. And I want you to tell me what they're from.
All right. Sounds good.
First one I have is wildfire virus.
Wildfire virus.
Yep.
Do I get any hints?
Yeah, this is one of the zombie ones.
It's one of the zombie ones. Is wildfire virus from I Am Legend?
Nope. Bigger.
Is wildfire bigger than I Am Legend? The Last of Us?
Nope. Earlier. At least the show. I don't know when the games came out.
Okay.
Probably the biggest zombie show aside
biggest zombie show, TV show?
Yeah.
Oh, The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead. Yep,
nice. Wildfire virus.
That's what it was in the comics and the show.
Not into it.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound like a zombie virus.
It doesn't really sound like a virus. It sounds like something that trees get.
Yes, you're right.
You know?
Yes. All right, Kyle, next one. Simian flu.
Oh, I've had that a couple times.
That for you, that's when you turn into a chimpanzee.
Yeah. Oh my
But
God.
it's something else in the media.
Oh, is it from Planet of the Apes?
You got it. Yep.
Is it an ape disease?
It is the disease that destroyed, decimated humanity and made the apes intelligent.
Oh, gotcha.
Did both. I call that 1 for 2 because you got that one faster.
That's fair.
All right, next one, Kyle. You'll definitely get this one. The Suds.
SpongeBob!
SpongeBob.
Oh, that's a good episode because SpongeBob plugs up all his holes and then he bloats up and gets gray like a beached whale.
Yeah. And doesn't it start just because he left the fridge open overnight?
I think you're right. Yeah, he leaves the yeah,
and then
you're
his
right.
whole house, it turns into a tundra.
Into a tundra. That's exactly it.
Next one, Kyle. The cordyceps brain infection.
Oh, that's good. Cordyceps, I know, is the fungus that
Yes, it is a real fungus.
It takes over animals' nervous systems, right? Like insects.
That was the inspiration for this fictional thing.
Oh, I must know what this is. I must know.
You've said it already.
Oh, is it from The Last of Us?
Yes, it is from The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Yep, that's from the game and the show. It's the zombie one.
It's the zombie one.
But they never call them the zombies in the game or the show. They just call them the infected.
Interesting. What now, Emily? What is up with that? Why can't we just call them zombies? Why are they walkers?
Well, I don't know what it's like in the lore of The Walking Dead. In The Last of Us, they're not undead. You can just kill them and they're dead.
Oh, because they're just dead.
They're just people that are infected.
Fungi in them?
They're not even dead. They're just still alive, but infected.
Oh.
So you can just kill them like
horrible.
Normal.
That's so much worse than zombies.
You're
just killing people. In zombie movies, it's like
their brains have changed.
Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, so it's like going into a hospital and having to turn off people's ventilators.
I mean, it's definitely a horrible thing for sure, but it's a horror game.
No. Now it's a Sophie's Choice game. I don't like it.
Okay. Well, we'll end with a fun one, Kyle. Okay. The last one I have is Donkey Fever.
Donkey Fever? Is that what Dragon has in Shrek?
No. I mean, yes, but that's not the answer I'm looking for.
Donkey Fever? I can't
This is people turning into donkeys.
Donkey Fever.
Or perhaps children turning into donkeys.
Is it Pinocchio?
It is.
It's called Donkey Fever?
According to Wikipedia, it's called Donkey Fever.
In the movie or in the fairy tale?
In the movie, I think.
Oh, God, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yep. Kyle, you did great.
Emily, you did great. What an awesome episode.
Aw, thanks, man.
Learned a lot. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I want all of you at home to remember that you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips. You can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media as well, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you liked today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really liked today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more earns you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Emily Moyers.
And I've been Kyle Imperator, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Kyle Imperator, and myself, Emily Moyers. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.